Welcome to our deep dive into the mind of Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky.
You've given us quite a stack of his works.
Oh, yeah.
Crime and Punishment, Notes from Underground, short stories, The Brothers Karamazov, The House of the Dead, and The Possessed.
A diverse selection.
It is. Our mission is to unearth the psychological and philosophical gold buried within his stories.
Right.
Not just the plots, but the WHY behind his characters' actions.
Absolutely.
And the timeless questions he grapples with.
Dostoevsky wasn't just a storyteller. He was a chronicler of the human soul.
Really?
He pioneered the use of the unreliable narrator, allowing readers to experience the world through the distorted lens of characters grappling with guilt, paranoia, and existential angst.
Wow.
We're going to uncover recurring themes like guilt, suffering, free will, and faith,
Okay.
and explore how they connect across his different novels.
So it sounds like we're about to get a crash course in both literature and psychology.
We got it.
Let's start with Crime and Punishment. I remember that image of Raskolnikov wiping his bloody hands on that red fabric, thinking, on red, the blood will be less noticeable. It's like the guilt is staining him, becoming a part of him, even before anyone knows his crime.
That's a powerful observation.
Yeah.
The blood represents not just the physical act, but the indelible mark of his crime on his soul.
I see.
Dostoevsky uses Raskolnikov's mental deterioration to illustrate how guilt can become a physical manifestation, a disease that consumes the body as well as the mind.
It's interesting that you say that because it's not just the fear of getting caught that drives Raskolnikov to confess, right?
No.
It's almost like he wants to be punished,
Right.
to find some relief from this internal torment.
Exactly. He's driven by a need to atone for his actions.
Okay.
Dostoevsky seems to be suggesting that true redemption requires an internal reckoning, a confrontation with one's own guilt. This struggle between internal and external punishment is a theme we see echoed throughout his work.
And this leads us to another big question that Dostoevsky grapples with: free will.
Yes.
Did Raskolnikov truly choose to commit this crime? Or was he driven by forces beyond his control? Poverty, societal pressures, his own twisted ideology.
Right.
It feels like Dostoevsky is saying it's not so black and white.
He certainly complicates this idea of determinism versus free will.
Yeah.
Take notes from Underground, for instance.
Okay.
The Underground man embodies this tension between intellect and emotion, conscious choice and subconscious drives.
Right.
He recognizes his flaws but can't seem to overcome them. He's intelligent but makes terrible decisions.
Yeah.
It's like he's trapped in this cycle of self-sabotage.
Reading Notes from Underground was like being trapped in a room with the world's most cynical roommate.
Uh-huh.
But I have to admit, sometimes I found myself agreeing with his rants about society.
The Underground man has a way of getting under your skin.
He does.
He's repulsive but strangely compelling.
Yes.
He's constantly mocking his own neuroses and failings. But there's also a vulnerability there.
Right.
A desperate yearning for connection that he can't seem to fulfill.
Which brings us to that crocodile story.
Oh, yes.
You said there's a deeper meaning to a man literally swallowing a crocodile.
Dostoevsky often uses surreal situations to explore the absurdity of human behavior.
Okay.
The crocodile symbolizes the irrational forces that can consume us, even when we think we're in control.
I see.
It represents those darker impulses we try to repress, but can ultimately overwhelm us.
So how does that connect to the bigger picture of Dostoevsky's work?
Right.
What's the overarching message he's trying to convey about human nature?
Dostoevsky forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and society. He doesn't shy away from exploring the dark side of human nature, the potential for both good and evil that exists within all of us.
Yeah.
He challenges us to examine our own beliefs, motivations, and the consequences of our choices. And his work isn't about providing easy answers.
But about prompting us to grapple with these timeless questions ourselves.
This deep dive is getting pretty intense.
It is.
It's like we're peeling back layers of human nature, revealing all the darkness and complexity underneath.
That's a good way to put it.
Where do we go from here?
Well, speaking of prophetic visions,
Okay.
The Possessed takes Dostoevsky's concerns about ideology to a whole new level. We'll explore how he portrays the seductive power of ideas and the dangers of losing sight of our shared humanity in the face of extremism.
This is going to be fascinating. On to the next book.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the mind of Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Hey.
Last time we talked about guilt, free will,
Yeah.
even a man swallowing a crocodile.
It was wild.
It's clear that Dostoevsky wasn't afraid to delve into the darker aspects of human nature.
Yeah, and you mentioned that his own life experiences, particularly his time in prison,
Right.
deeply influenced his writing.
Absolutely.
Let's dig into that a bit more.
How did those experiences shape his understanding of suffering?
Okay.
And what insights can we glean from his portrayal of it?
Dostoevsky believed that suffering was an essential part of the human experience, a crucible that could lead to both despair and redemption. His own time in a Siberian prison camp provided him with firsthand knowledge of the depths of human cruelty,
Right.
but also the unexpected moments of grace that could arise in such a brutal environment.
The House of the Dead gives us a glimpse into that world, right?
It does.
It's a stark portrait of the dehumanizing effects of imprisonment.
Yeah.
But within that harsh reality, he also finds these glimmers of humanity, these acts of kindness that defy the oppressive system.
Exactly. Think of the scene where the prisoners, despite their own hardship, pool their meager resources to buy an eagle from a street vendor. They find a strange joy in caring for this creature.
Yeah.
A shared act of defiance against the system that seeks to crush their spirits.
It seems like that eagle becomes a symbol of something more than just freedom from physical confinement.
Right.
It represents a kind of spiritual freedom.
Yeah.
The ability to choose compassion and connection, even in the face of suffering.
That's a brilliant insight. For Dostoevsky, true freedom wasn't just about breaking chains.
Okay.
It was about the inner strength to choose love and empathy,
Yeah.
even in the darkest of places.
I see.
And this idea connects directly to his religious faith,
Uh-huh.
which played a huge role in his understanding of suffering and redemption.
So how does Dostoevsky's faith manifest in his work?
Okay.
Is it about blind acceptance?
Yeah.
Or is there a more complex struggle at play?
Dostoevsky was a devout Orthodox Christian,
Okay.
but his faith wasn't a simplistic one.
Mm-hmm.
He saw faith as a journey,
Okay.
often born from doubt, from wrestling with existential questions,
Right.
from confronting the depths of human suffering.
We see this struggle play out dramatically in the Brothers Karamazov.
Yes.
The brothers, Dmitry, Ivan, and Alyosha, each embody different approaches to faith and reason.
Precisely. You have Dmitry driven by passion and impulse, often at odds with conventional morality. Then there's Ivan, the intellectual skeptic, tormented by the problem of suffering in the world. And finally, Alyosha, the compassionate one, seeking solace and meaning through faith.
It's as if Dostoevsky is presenting us with a spectrum of human belief systems,
Yes.
forcing us to confront those big questions alongside his characters.
And by presenting these conflicting viewpoints, he's not preaching a particular doctrine.
Right.
He's inviting us to participate in the ongoing dialogue about faith, doubt, and the search for meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and absurd.
But it's not just about religious faith, is it?
No.
It feels like Dostoevsky is exploring a broader human need to believe in something.
Right.
To find something to anchor ourselves to in the face of uncertainty and suffering.
You're absolutely right. The search for meaning is a thread that runs through all of his work.
Okay.
Even the cynical underground man, in his own twisted way, is desperately seeking something to give his life purpose. He may reject traditional morality,
Right.
but he yearns for connection, for love,
Yeah.
for something to fill the void within him.
It strikes me that Dostoevsky's characters, despite their flaws and contradictions, are all deeply human.
They are.
They make terrible choices.
Yeah.
They hurt themselves and others, but they're also capable of great love,
Absolutely.
compassion, and self-sacrifice.
That's the paradox of human nature that Dostoevsky captures so brilliantly.
Wow.
We're capable of both immense darkness and profound love, and the struggle between those forces is what makes us who we are.
It's powerful.
But what happens when that struggle tips too far in one direction?
Okay.
When hope gives way to despair, and the search for meaning leads to nihilism.
You're talking about The Possessed now, right?
Yeah.
Where Dostoevsky explores the dangers of nihilism and the rise of radical ideologies.
Exactly. The Possessed is a cautionary tale.
Okay.
A warning about the seductive power of ideas.
Right.
And the potential for violence when those ideas take root in fertile ground. It's a chilling exploration of how individuals can be swept up in movements that promise simplistic solutions solutions to complex problems, often with devastating consequences.
It feels like Dostoevsky is speaking directly to the anxieties of our own time.
He is.
We see similar trends today. The rise of extremism, the spread of misinformation, the erosion of trust in institutions. It's as if he foresaw the potential for these forces to tear society apart.
He was deeply concerned about the fragility of human connection, the ways in which fear, anger, and resentment can be manipulated to divide us. He saw nihilism not just as a philosophical concept, but as a dangerous vacuum where destructive ideologies could flourish.
So what are we to make of all this? Is Dostoevsky simply presenting us with a bleak vision of human nature? Or is there a glimmer of hope to be found in his work?
That's the question that continues to haunt readers generations later.
Wow.
Join us in Part 3 as we explore Dostoevsky's legacy and consider what insights his work can offer us in navigating the complexities of our own world.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the mind of Fyodor Dostoevsky. We've explored his characters, their struggles with guilt and faith, and the philosophical questions that haunted him.
We've journeyed from the psychological torment of Raskolnikov to the cynical musings of the underground man, and even encountered a man who swallowed a crocodile.
It's been quite a ride.
But one question lingers: was Dostoevsky a prophet? Did he foresee the anxieties of our modern world?
That's what I'm grappling with. We've touched on some unsettling parallels between his world and ours. The rise of extremism, the spread of misinformation. It's almost like he's holding up a mirror to our own society.
Dostoevsky had an uncanny ability to tap into the deepest fears and desires of humanity, anxieties that transcend time and place. Remember his profound concern about nihilism, the belief that life is ultimately meaningless.
Right, and how that creates a vacuum where dangerous ideologies can take root. The Possessed felt like a chilling premonition of the totalitarian regimes that would emerge in the 20th century.
Exactly. Dostoevsky understood the seductive power of ideology, how charismatic leaders can exploit people's longing for simple answers and certainty. He saw how easily individuals could be swept up in movements that promised utopia but delivered tyranny.
But it wasn't just about political extremism, was it? He also seemed to anticipate the social fragmentation and isolation that many people experience today.
He did. Dostoevsky was deeply concerned about the erosion of shared values, the atomization of society, the loss of genuine human connection. He saw technology in its early forms as a potential force for both progress and alienation.
It's like he predicted the rise of social media, where we're constantly connected, yet often feel more isolated than ever. So if Dostoevsky was such a keen observer of human nature, did he offer any solutions to these dilemmas? Any guidance for navigating this complex and often unsettling world?
Dostoevsky wasn't a utopian thinker. He didn't offer easy answers or prescribe a specific path to salvation. His genius lies in his ability to force us to confront the hard questions, to wrestle with our own doubts and contradictions.
So what's the takeaway? Are we just doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past, to succumb to the same anxieties and divisions that plagued Dostoevsky's world?
Not necessarily. Dostoevsky, despite his bleak portrayals of human fallibility, ultimately believed in the possibility of redemption, both individual and collective. He saw suffering as a crucible for spiritual growth, for empathy, for a deeper understanding of ourselves and others.
That reminds me of The Idiot, where Prince Mishkin, a character often seen as a Christ-like figure, radiates compassion and forgiveness in a world consumed by greed and cynicism. He's almost an antidote to the darkness that surrounds him.
That's a beautiful example. Dostoevsky, through characters like Mishkin, reminds us of the transformative power of love, of the potential for human connection to bridge divides and heal wounds. He challenges us to confront the darkness, not with despair, but with a commitment to our shared humanity.
This has been an incredible journey exploring the depths of Dostoevsky's world and grappling with his timeless insights. But I have to ask, what about the humor you mentioned, that Dostoevsky wasn't all doom and gloom?
Yes. Dostoevsky, despite his reputation for being a rather serious fellow, had a sharp wit and a keen eye for the absurdities of human behavior.
Honestly, I didn't pick up on a lot of humor while reading these books.
It's a subtle humor often found in the irony and satire woven into his narratives. Think of the underground man's self-deprecating rants or the outrageous antics of Fyodor Pavlovich in The Brothers Karamazov.
Okay, now that you mention it, those characters do have a darkly comedic side. They're almost caricatures of human folly, but there's a certain brilliance in the way Dostoevsky uses humor to expose hypocrisy and make us laugh at our own absurdity.
Exactly. Humor for Dostoevsky wasn't just about comic relief. It was a tool for social commentary, a way to hold up a mirror to society and make us question our assumptions.
This deep dive has truly been an eye-opener. I feel like I need to revisit Dostoevsky's work with a fresh perspective, looking for those layers of meaning and those subtle touches of humor that I might have missed before.
I encourage you to do so. And remember, Dostoevsky's work isn't meant to provide easy answers. It's an invitation to engage in a lifelong conversation, to grapple with the big questions, and to confront the complexities of human existence with open hearts and minds.
So as we conclude this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from our exploration of Dostoevsky?
Dostoevsky believed that the mystery of human existence lies not in just staying alive, but in finding something to live for. So I would ask our listener, what gives your life meaning? What are you passionate about? What do you believe in? Dostoevsky's work reminds us that even in a world filled with suffering and uncertainty, the search for meaning is what makes us truly human.
That's a powerful thought to leave us with. Until next time, happy reading.